Hello, and thank you for joining us today. We're so glad to have you for this special edition of Power Hour. And before we start discussing the topic of the day, I wanted to mention out to you and give a shout out that in case you did miss it yesterday, HGTV just announced that their next dream home, who the Hilton Head Island Bluffton Chamber of Commerce will be partnering with, will be located in Berkeley Hall for 2025. And millions of viewers from around the country will get to know and further see the charm that Bluffton has to offer, and we're really looking forward to that. And just to give you a sense of scale, last year's Dream Home had about 161 million social media impressions, and when it was announced on live on TV, 4.9 million were watching. Almost 5 million people were watching that unveiling. So we're excited to be a part of it and glad they're coming back to the area. They were last in Windmill Harbor in 2020, and we were fortunate to work and partner side by side with them on that. You know, we're also heading into another fun and busy weekend with Concord Elegance just around the corner here. A wonderful event that's showcasing great people and great cars from all around the world. So if you haven't gotten tickets, you can still hit the show on Saturday and Sunday, and you will sure want to do that. Well, I know we're glad that we're down to 6 days left until Election Day, and there are two very, very important items that are on the ballot this year regarding the road referendums for Jasper and Beaufort County, and that's the reason that we're here today. And regardless of where you live or work, the referendums go hand in hand, and that's developing and coordinating a regional transportation system to keep our residents safe, and also, which is very important, is preserving and protecting the green space. And that will help, all of that will help to make sure that our infrastructure can handle the current flow that we currently continue to have. That was tough to get out, but and also the future needs for our residents and our workforce. So not only about today, but also looking into the future and what those needs are going to be. We have two great speakers with us. First up today is the mayor of Hardeeville. And, you know, around the office here, we have some of our teammates that refer to him as the handsome mayor of Hardeeville. And with that, my pleasure to introduce to you Mayor Harry Williams. Mayor Williams, glad to have you on today.
Good morning. Good morning. That's good. That's going to be a tough intro to live up to.
You can do it. We know you've got it.
Well, as you said, we're a couple of days away from finally coming to Election Day, and I heard this morning that through last night, 41% of the people have voted in Jasper County, either through early voting or for mail-ins. So that's a pretty good turnout. It speaks that we will have a lot of people interested in voting. And as far as the two questions that come up in the transportation sales tax referendum, it simply put, it's about the safety of our residents. It's about the safety of our visitors. And most importantly, or as important, is the safety of our people who go to work every day on these routes that we're talking about. And one other very important aspect of safety is the safety of evacuation routes, and how do we get out of this area when the governor calls for a mandatory evacuation. But people may not know, and I've heard criticisms about specificity. Yeah, I had that trouble with that one, Bill, too. There are, between the two referendums, in the corridors that will be used to evacuate from this area, $544.5 million between the two referendums. And that includes the 278 corridor and the bridge. It includes the triangle. And a very important route also is the route from 46 to 170 to 315, Levy Road and 17. That whole corridor in there is very important, not only for Jasper County, but for Bluffton and Hilton Head when it's time to get out of town and get out of town quickly. And we saw with Helene that quickly may be very possible. In spite of the weeks long of tracking these storms, Helene took a sudden turn east and headed in our direction much more fiercely than was predicted, even 8 hours before it happened. So those evacuation routes are very important aspect of our safety. And the choice is very clear. As an elected official, I can't advocate for this, but I've spoken to a lot of groups, and the choice is very, very simple. Number one, you can vote to have safe roads, or you can say no to a tax. It is a tax, and that's the negative. Um, if this passes, the tax would stay the same. If the school referendum passes, then it will go up to 9% from the current rate of 8. Um, so that's the negative side of it, and it's important to understand. But it's a relatively small price to pay for the safety of our roads. So that's one side of it. In Jasper County, the other side of it is 20% of every dollar will go towards Greenbelt initiatives. And that's mostly, it can cover a number of things, but it's mostly the preservation of land. And that's so important. And just as Bill said, this is a regional transportation system. This is a regional preservation system as well. We all know that Beaufort County will have collected $100 million from the last referendum. There's another 50 million in the Beaufort County referendum. And this 94 million brings the total up to almost $250 million that we can collectively as a region preserve lands that are sensitive to our area. So that's a very, very key element to what we're talking about here. Also, one other thing that voters should consider, as particularly in the Jasper County referendum, we know that Beaufort has historically, because of the tourists, 40 to 45% of every dollar is usually contributed by non-residents. In Jasper County, we're expecting at least that minimum because in the next 5 years, you're going to see a tremendous amount of increase in Jasper County's commercial side. Number one, Exit 3 will bring 1,600 acres of new commercial industry in that area, including hotels, restaurants, gas stations, all the things that normally come around an exit. Number two, there was approved by the Planning Commission last month, a travel center along Exit 8. City Council held a workshop last week, and the representative of that travel center also happened to work for a company by the name of Buc-ee's. That particular development, which will be happening in the next 3 to 4 years, will also bring other commercial interests that will want to be along that particular travel center. Also, we're developing 72 acres on one side of the street and another 20 on the other side of the street. That's been in the works for 7 years, and that's next to Margaritaville. And that's only 2.5 miles from that exit. So with all the commercial prospects that we're expecting in the next 5 years, every one of those businesses will contribute to fixing our roadways by people who won't even know they're in Hardeeville or Jasper County. So that's a very important aspect as well. So that's pretty much the overview. of the Jasper County referendum. The second phase of that, the second question, is bonding, and that's $100 million. That is not an additional tax. That is gives the county the ability to start the projects right away if they so choose. And that if they do borrow that money through bonds, it's paid back by the collection of the revenues. So the logic is this: we can wait until we collect the money, and that means probably a few years before we even start anything. Or we can borrow at perhaps, let's say, 4%, rather than wait 5 years and then have a 20% increase in building costs, which is historically what is happening right now. So at least the bond will give us the option to look at those market conditions and make a decision before the money is collected. So that's what the second issue is about, the second question. And a lot of people were confused about exactly what that was. That is not an additional tax. It's just borrowing capability that's paid back by the future tax collections. So with that, Bill, I'll rest my speech, and perhaps Jared can tell us a little bit about Beaufort County.
Mayor, thank you. And yes, we'll move to Jared, and then Mayor, we'd ask that you stand by after Jared finishes talking about Beaufort County. Then we'll come back and have questions for both, if that works for you. Okay. All right, great. So we'll continue on, and we'll keep Mayor on hold here for us. And now we're going to hear from Jared Fralix, who's the Assistant Administrator overseeing engineering for Beaufort County. Jared, welcome back, and thank you for being with us today to share a little bit about Beaufort County and what would be in it for the referendum for people were to vote for it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Bill, and appreciate that opportunity, and especially the opportunity to coordinate with Mayor Williams. We've had the opportunity to talk about this together on more than one occasion, and I think that's fitting because it's not just a Beaufort County sales tax or a Jasper County sales tax. It's a regional plan. When you're driving on the roads in the area, you don't know whether you're on a DOT road or a county road, or whether you're specifically in Hardyville or Bluffton. You just know that you're in traffic, or you hit a pothole. And those are things that we want to address through these plans. These are regional plans of major significance. But in addition to the evacuation routes, as Mayor Williams referenced, one of the big highlights is safety. I heard the staggering fact, some data statistics not too long ago, but over the last 6 years in our region, so a 4-county region, not just us and Jasper, but Colleton and Hampton, there's been over 43,000 incidents over those last 6 years. And more importantly, and this is more disheartening, is out of those 43,000 incidents, 400 of those were fatalities. So to say that we have safety issues on our roads is an understatement. And so what's proposed is, will this fix all those accidents? Absolutely not. But we know that without doing anything, the accidents aren't going to get better, as well as the roads. So the facts that we know is we have a desirable region, part of the country, that our state is growing, that our region is growing, and our counties and our communities are all growing. That is a fact, and that will continue regardless whether this tax passes or not. The other fact that we know is that roads don't repair themselves. So we know we will have more people. We know we already have a high level of incidents, and without investment, we can expect that the traffic and the safety issues aren't going to self-correct. So Those are the kind of big parts that when we talk about why are we doing this, we're doing it for safety, we're doing it for evacuation, and then the conservation component that Mayor Williams talked about that's one of the biggest attracting factors to our region is our ecological environment that we live in. And so between the green space tax that was recently passed, that expires at the end of this year. And if the transportation tax was passed, both Jasper and Beaufort counties have an element of conservation. Ours is approximately 5% or $50 million. That would be basically a continued preservation component to what we have with green space and previous versions of Rural and Critical Lands program. So those are important elements that are appropriate underneath this tax. And as Mayor Williams mentioned, that whether it's the travel center that's coming or other elements, but there's a lot of people that visit the area. So as we're planning on improvements in the area and how do we face that struggle to meet the need and the funding element, this is between Jasper and Beaufort counties, there's approximately 40 to 45% that's paid by out-of-towners. So those that are visiting our area that help participate in the improvements that would be planned and implemented. A couple of questions that I hear a lot that I like to go ahead and address, and then obviously we can answer questions when we have time. But a couple of them is the 2018 sales tax. So Beaufort County has an existing sales tax. Isn't this just double dipping? Aren't we? Don't we already have money for the projects that are previous there? And the answer is no, we're not double dipping. The money that's sitting there for the existing projects is still in the bank account. Either it's been expended on engineering or some construction on some of the pathway projects. The difference is the cost of the projects from 2018 till now has drastically increased between COVID and inflation. Just the cost of doing business and the world as we know it has changed. And so these funds that are part of a portion of the sales tax funds would go to help complete what was promised in that 2018 sales tax so we can bring those projects to fruition. Another question that'll get a lot of times is what happens if it fails? Well, first, like I said, if it fails, the roads aren't going to get better by themselves. So it takes some investment from somewhere. One thing that's been asked is county council going to increase my property taxes if this fails? And I don't know the answer to that specifically, but there's basically kind of three options for other investments into our roads if the sales tax isn't successful. The first option is the easiest option is the do nothing option. So nothing, no taxes go up. Sales tax or property tax, but also no improvements are made. Another option is property tax. So if there was a project or projects that county council felt that compelled to continue to push forward, there's that element that they could lean on property tax to help bring that project to fruition. I don't see that being a replacement because the amount that sales tax earns versus what property tax, the availability of property tax is so much larger from sales tax. So that would probably be a more spot specific project. It wouldn't address all the projects that are included in the program. And then lastly, another option that council has is to come back later every 2 years by statute. This is allowed at a general election, so they could come back in 2 years, but no improvements really would be seen between now and that next time it comes out. And then lastly, what happens if one tax passes and another tax doesn't? So if Jasper passes and Beaufort doesn't, or vice versa. The short story is that's still a win. That's a good thing as far as the road improvements, because a lot of these improvements are large, major infrastructure improvements, and it will take a while before the construction dollars that are needed to complete are needed to be there. So as long as there's some initial funding to start the design, then those regional projects will have an opportunity to get started. However, when it really comes to putting those projects out to bid, that's when you'll see a significant difference. If one passes and one doesn't, then there will have to be a decision made at that time what the scope of the project is and if there's funding to cover the full project or just a portion of the project. So those are just a couple of questions that I've got a lot over the last several months in talking about sales tax. And in general, the intent is this is an opportunity for the voters to make their decision on what is important to them and whether the safety and the roads is something that is worth taxing themselves through this 1% sales tax in order to make this level of investment. And we'll see what that comes out here shortly.
Jared, thank you. And if you'll stand by as well, along with Mayor Williams, we do have some questions that have come in. The first one is coming in from Michael, and Michael is asking, how does the referendum impact the evacuation routes for Beaufort County?
Mayor Williams, you kind of answered that if you want to.
Well, just to break it down, if you look at the list on Beaufort County's referendum, the roads I referred to, the 278 corridor is $90 million. The triangle, which is 170 and 278, at least the Beaufort County part of it, is $120 million. And Route 46, that corridor that leads to 315 and 17, and the eventual exit 3, that's 50 million. So those three roadways, which are major evacuation routes, are $260 million. In Jasper County, Argent Boulevard, major road for going between Savannah and Beaufort, $57 million. $65 million for the widening of 278. So people coming off Hilton Head and Bluffton will be traveling 278 to the exit 8. Levy Road is part of that corridor down there. 462, which leads into 170. And that's the route that many people are going to be taking to exit 28 on I-95. That's $56 million. The corridor I mentioned before, 46 to 170 to 315, is $30 million. Highway 17, which is where you'll go from 315 to get up to exit 3, is $24 million. And widening of 315, which is a very backlogged area, is $41.5 million. So in Jasper County, on those roads, $284.5 million for a total between the two counties, $544,500,000. That all those roads that I mentioned will be major evacuation corridors in the event of a hurricane. Not to mention, and this is important, hurricanes may happen once a year, once a couple of years, but every single day, those same roads are being traveled by our workforce, our people going, and buses going to schools, as well as our residents doing their everyday work. Those are major corridors for all those things. We talk about workforce and housing for workforce and how important it is and how short we are. If our workforce, and they're making hourly wages and they're stuck in traffic because there was an accident or the congestion, they're not earning a living, and they are the ones that need to earn a living, and we're waiting for the services that they're ready to deliver.
Thank you, Mayor. Next question, and either one of you can answer this, is coming from Donna, and Donna is asking if the traffic lights on 278 and 170 will be coordinated and synchronized.
Yeah,
Jared, I'll let you handle that.
overall, that's the goal and the plan. So to have we have a program inside of the Beaufort County tax called for traffic or safety and traffic flow. So that would provide provisions for funding for fiber connectivity and synchronization of those signals more than they are today. So yes, that would be something we would look at accomplishing.
All right, thank you. Mayor, John is asking, what's the expected growth for Hardeeville and Jasper County in the next 5 years?
Well, right now, the city is growing by almost 3,000 residents per year. And that's just with developments that are already master planned and ongoing. We will give out 1,500 single family home permits this year alone. There are an additional 15,000 homes that have already been master planned and in the works. And they include Margaritaville, Sun City, East Argent, Hilton Head Lakes, and that whole Lennar project. Those are ongoing. And as long as the market holds up, they're going to continue. Now, there will be additional 35,000 that have density attached to them that could come forward in the next 5 years as well. So to answer the question, 3,000 times 5 it will more than likely be another 15,000 people on top of our projected population right now, 15,000. So somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000, and it will be continuing to grow over the next decade at least.
Thank you, Mayor. Kim is asking, if the tax passes, when will it actually begin?
Well, the tax begins, if it passes, the tax begins collection on May 1st, 2025. And then both counties, if question 2 passes, we will decide whether or not to wait until we collect, which is the preferred option, or whether market conditions dictate that perhaps we use the bonding capability. Now, in Jasper County, and I know there's something in Beaufort, but in Jasper County, in the ordinance, so by law, there is a committee of 4, which includes the mayors of Hardeeville, Ridgeland, the county council chair, and the representative from the school board. They will meet on a regular basis as needed in public meetings. And in those meetings will be decided, they will evaluate the collection rate. They will decide what the priorities are of all those projects that are listed. And they will decide whether or not they will recommend whether or not to use the bonding capabilities. Now, this is not a legislative body, it is a recommending body, and it will be with public input, and those recommendations from that body will go to county council for implementation.
And similarly on that, on the Beaufort side, we'll have a similar committee. Our committee is a little bit different, made of 7 folks, citizen representatives, 4 from the municipalities and 3 from the counties. But they'll serve in a similar capacity to evaluate the projects and keep tabs on the schedules and reporting to make sure that the program is being administered in a transparent and forthright manner.
All right, thank you. And Kim is asking, the second part of her question is, what will the sales tax go up to in both counties if this new proposed sales tax passes?
Today, Jasper County is at 8%. And as we know, the legal limit is 9. The Jasper County was 9 2 years ago. The previous transportation sales tax was collected by the end of 2022. So it dropped from 9 to 8. Now, if both referendums, the school and the transportation tax pass, it'll go back to 9. If one passes and the other fails, it will stay at 8. If they both fail, it'll go down to 7.
And on Beaufort County, currently ours is at 7%. We have a green space sales tax. It is set to expire at the end of this year. So for a short period of time, it will go down to 6%. And if the transportation is approved, which the collection starts in May, as referenced earlier, it would go back to 7. If the sales tax fails, the green space automatically rolls off, so it will go down to 6% in Beaufort County.
All
And
right.
that's a good point to follow up on. With these taxes, both of them, by law, they will sunset either A, when the total is collected, or B, when the number of years come. So whichever comes first, the tax sunsets and drops off.
Thank you. Next question is coming from Brian, and Brian is asking if public transportation alternatives are included in either referendum.
Yeah, in Beaufort County, we have provision for mass transit, so $80 million. And so our definition of that is moving groups of people in a collective manner. So our main method that we have locally is Palmetto Breeze, our bus system. And then also unique to Beaufort County is a ferry system that we have, and then also commercial airport. So there would be opportunities for investment in those 3 mass transit facilities and opportunities inside of those 3 functions.
And Jasper County does not have a specified amount. However, as referenced several times before, this is a regional transportation plan, and Jasper County is being served by Palmetto Breeze. So whatever funding that gets, they're already in Jasper County, and they're looking to expand the services. And that's, again, goes back to our workforce, a very, very important element in this entire plan.
Susan's asking that if this tax passes, did I hear correctly that 40 to 45% of the monies will be paid for by tourists?
Yeah, that's
That
the
is,
estimation that we have. But yeah, so typical collection for Beaufort County is about $60 million. So if you think about per year, annual, so if you think about that, 40% of that, $25 million of that would be paid by those visiting the area.
and in Jasper, we're projecting to come up to the $470 million. That's based on a 15% increase each year on top of what currently is $9.5 million collected. So if you extrapolate that out 15 years, it comes to 470. That is based on all new commerce that is going to be heavily coming from pass-by traffic.
All right, thank you. The next question is coming from Scott, and Scott is asking, what is in it for Sea Pines Circle on Hilton Head Island?
Yeah, so Sea Pines Circle, the different components of the program, we have some regional projects. We talked about the Triangle and 46, and then we have some local projects. So local projects we identified as municipality projects, and each municipality in Beaufort County received an allocation, and Hilton Head's was $30 million. And specific to that allocation, Beaufort County Council stated that Hilton Head would need to address improvements to Sea Pine Circle. Those improvements are still under, they're being defined what that is exactly, but out of that allocation of money, funds would be used to make sure that intersection is improved better than it is today.
Thank you, Jared. All right, Mayor, Linda is asking if there is a citizen oversight committee that will be set up similar to Beaufort County's.
We have in our ordinance mandatory citizen participation in regular meetings. Now, what regular has not been defined yet. What we'll do if it passes, we'll get together sometime before May and set up the structure. But the idea is to have all these meetings in public so that anyone from the public that wants to give input to it will have that availability.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, Jared. Richard is asking what for an update on the status of the corridor project design.
On 278.
Yes.
So presently where that project is, the town provided municipal consent at the end of summer, end of June. And what that provided for is for DOT to submit the environmental document to Federal Highway. And so they are reviewing that. And once that document returns, then that allows the project to advance. So where we sit today is expected that we have about a year we're about 30% design on the overall project. We've got another year of design that will then initiate the right-of-way acquisition and start the permitting. And there's about a year and a half of that. So in about 2.5 years is the expected timeline from where we sit today to be able to have the project ready to put out to bid. So we still have a bit of work to do, but the actions that have taken place over the last 6 months or so have been instrumental to moving the project to the next stage and getting the project out to construction.
All right, thank you. Mayor Patricia is asking what you think are the top two parts of the referendums in both counties. What will be the most impactful?
Of all the projects that are listed, I'm not sure I understand the question.
The way I understand it, and I'm reading it, is that that are listed that will be implemented if these referendums are passed.
The two most important, and that doesn't mean the rest aren't. I want to stress that. But the two most important are the $90 million for the corridor of 278 going and the bridge to Hilton Head and the triangle. Those two in Jasper, Beaufort County are key to evacuation, to everyday public safety, and for the movement of our workforce between other counties, Jasper, Beaufort, and going to Hilton Head. If we want to continue the workforce availability to Hilton Head, those two projects are the most key.
And Mayor, we have a regional committee, transportation committee called LATS, that looks at all the roads and priorities in the region. And those two projects you just referenced are number one and number two highest priority on that LATS study for the entire region, to echo that.
And that's a very good point, Jared, because not only is that the two most important in our two counties' minds, but that LATS is a regional transportation study. So it's the number 1 and 2 projects in the minds of the entire region.
Okay. Tom is asking what the number of dollars are to preserve land. He said he thought he heard the $250 million and was just looking for that to be clarified.
Okay, in Jasper County, if passed, 20% or $94 million will go to Greenbelt initiatives. If passed, Beaufort County has another 50 million. That's 144 million. They've already collected from the last 2 years 100 million. So that's 244 million collectively for the region. And just as Jared said, and Bill, you said, this is a regional system and evaluation. The two counties are doing a wonderful job working together to highlight the priorities and to make sure that the key sensitive areas are preserved. Because as we all know, and Jared said it about traffic, same about waterway, Same about our wildlife. They don't know what county they're in. Waters flow all throughout our region. Our ecological system, our wildlife are all together. And that's why we have to look at this as a regional system.
Karen is asking about the, let's see, I lost it here. She's asking about the referendum and the bonding capacity. If Beaufort County will have the option for bonding as Jasper County does to vote on.
Yeah, so we have the same question format as Jasper County does. So the first question is the referendum itself, which is for Beaufort County, 950 million over 10 years, whichever one comes first. And then the second question is the opportunity to bond up to a portion of that, up to $515 million. And again, that would be to get the project started before the funds have been collected in the accounts. And that would be a decision that county council would have to make if that question is approved. So it reads similar to Jasper County's, just different numbers for our program versus their program.
Gentlemen, I'm pleased to tell you that you've answered all the questions that we've received so far, and certainly appreciate that. I hope that everyone will get out and vote if you haven't voted yet. And then again, to Mayor Williams and Jared, thank you for being with us today. Great information shared, and thanks for your leadership as well as your public service and your work each and every day for the betterment of Jasper and Beaufort counties.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity. And again, I echo the same thing. Hopefully everybody's informed voter and get out there and use their democratic right.
And Bill, thank you for the opportunity and including Hardeeville and Jasper County in the regional conversation. I think it's one of the most important things that have developed over certainly since I've been mayor. I would like to just take one moment and address one question that constantly comes up to me. I'm sure for Jared. People say these are state and federal roads. Why don't they do it? And the answer I give is very simple. There's not enough money, and we're not a high enough priority. They will not, if we do not fix these roads, the state and the federal government will not. And we've all heard about the transportation bill that went out. Remember, there are billions of dollars that came from the federal to widen I-95, which is starting in Jasper County next spring, and also I-26 going into Columbia. So those monies that come from state and federal are going there. And the last point, and we saw it with Exit 3, and we saw it with the Hilton Head bridges. Even the state money and the state infrastructure bank, and I've been in front of that bank far too many times than I'd like to admit, they want match. These referendums gives us the ability, because we have our own skin in the game, to use a phrase, to go to the state and say, look, we're not asking for a handout, we're asking for help, because we have other projects that are not listed on these referendums that need to be addressed that we don't have money for. So this referendum and these monies gives us the ability to get more. Same with the green space. We can get federal money. It's been proven if we have our own skin in the game, and that'll help us get money from other sources. So thank you for letting me add that, Bill.
Well said, Mayor. Again, thank you both for joining us, and look forward to seeing you